What is going on? Welcome into episode 2 of ESPN Wichita's 92.3 Preps. I am Jackson Schneider, and it is my favorite day of the year in terms of following high school sports, and that is day 1 of the state track and field meet. It is about to get underway just across town at Wichita State University. I am coming to you today inside of the newly reimagined Wichita Baseball Museum inside of Equity Bank Park. And if you're not aware, Home Run Dugout just opened. It is such a cool, immersive experience. Obviously, there's still tons of cool displays and history, like you can see behind me, in the Baseball Museum. But now they've got multiple bays. You can come take batting practice, swing, and play games and have fun. And it's a fully functioning restaurant as well. So really cool to be able to come and give you our show today from inside this location. And really excited as well to be bringing you our second episode. It's a little shorter today. It's kind of a chaotic week, as I mentioned, with state track and field, also softball and baseball going on, and with the weather issues, moving some of the schedule around. A little tougher to get a couple of guests for today's show, but I do have one great guest for you, and that is the head baseball coach of the Maize High School Eagles in Rocky Helm. We'll visit with him talking about their season and their big win in the state quarterfinals against Gardner Edgerton, as well as looking ahead to today's action and potentially into Saturday's action in the state championship. So they're playing really well. The number 1 seed in the 6A bracket, just 2 losses on the season. Both those losses are to teams outside of the state of Kansas. So really good discussion with Coach Helm. And we even dive in with him about some of his baseball past, his baseball mentors, and his history. Is he played baseball at the University of Kansas. And, of course, it's a big day in Lawrence as the Jayhawks open up the NCAA regional that they are hosting for the first time ever. So we'll touch on that as well. But before we get into our interview today, I do want to say make sure you are following our ESPN Wichita social media channels, okay? We are on Facebook, Twitter. We are on Instagram. We have a YouTube page, obviously. And it's for you to get involved in not just this show, but everything else we've got going on. We also had our High School Athletes of the Week dropping on Friday as well. 2 great athletes, 2 good interviews that you can check out. And there's plenty more from the rest of the year that you can look into as well if you missed any of those. Also, I wanted to give you kind of another path to talk to us directly, because I want to know what you want to hear about. I'm just one man, and I feel like I have a pretty good feel for some of the big stories and the cool things going on here in and around Wichita as it relates to high school sports. But you know more than me. You all are tied in all across the area to different teams and different schools and communities. So let me know some of the stories you want me to cover, you want me to look into, especially now that after this week, there's no more games to talk about. Summer will begin, and we're going to continue this show throughout the summer and find some unique stories and angles to talk about. So give me some ideas. I've got a few, and I'm really excited about what's to come over the summer with this show and how it will continue to grow and evolve. As you might have already noticed, we kind of changed how we looked on our YouTube page here with some fancy graphics and things. And that will just continue to evolve. But if you've got a scoop, if you've got something that you want me to look into or someone you want me to visit with, my DMs are open. Let us know. Shoot us a message. Happy to look into that. Maybe you could be the inspiration behind another interview in an episode to come here on this still very young show that we are working on here at ESPN Wichita. And also, if you'd like to get involved, if you want to help sponsor our efforts, message me. We'll get into contact. We can help you get your word out about your business or your cause. Happy to help any way I can there. And maybe we can figure something out to make this production even bigger and better. So look into that if you're interested. But let's take our first break. When we come back, we'll visit with the head baseball coach of the Maize High School Eagles in Rocky Helm. That's next here on 92.3 Preps. Welcome back to 92.3 Preps here, presented by ESPN Wichita. I'm Jackson Schneider, your host, and today we are talking Maize High School baseball with Coach Rocky Helm as the Eagles just secured a spot in the 6A state semifinals yesterday with a thrilling win over Gardner Edgerton. Coach, first off, congratulations on the big win yesterday and a fantastic season. Second of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I appreciate it. It was an exciting game.
Yeah, 3-1, and I think it was tied late before a two-out base knock gave you guys the lead, and you ended up holding on. But you got to come up with clutch performances this time of year to get the job done because everybody's good, right?
You're exactly right. We had the right guy in the right spot, and he did a job for us.
You guys are now, what is it, 27-2, I think, this season, and your two losses are to two teams from Arkansas. So you've played some good teams from across the state and out of state. How do you feel like your schedule's kind of prepared your team to face the best of the best here when it matters most?
I think our schedule's helped us tremendously. When we did go to Arkansas, that was kind of an awakening for us. We played Harbor. They beat us in extra innings. They eventually went on to win the state championship down there, and they beat Rogers, Arkansas in the semifinals. So those are the two teams that we played when we were over there, and I think it showed our guys what they needed to do to try to get hopefully where we're trying to get at the end of this year. So it was good for us.
Now with the playoff run, like we mentioned, everybody is good. So you have no moment to lapse. You can't, overlook anyone. How do you try to keep your team focused? You've seen a ton of success, but it's going to take some razor sharp focus to make sure you guys keep moving.
No, I agree with you, and I mean, really, it's a compliment to our players. They're pretty dialed in, and I think they know what they want to try to get done. They hold each other very accountable, which is huge for us, and they just basically let each other know they have their backs, and so they can just go do what they need to do. So it's kind of fun to watch.
Who are some guys that have really stepped up for you? I mean, I'm sure we could go down the roster because it's going to take a total team effort to put up some of the numbers you guys have so far this year. But who are some guys that have really stepped up in a big way?
Probably start off with our catcher, Hunter Jennings. I mean, looking at his numbers, they won't light you up, but his leadership and how he runs our program and our pitching staff is second to none. He's a great guy out there. He's like a coach on the field, which is huge. On the end of pitching things, we've had 3 or 4 guys that have done very well. Porter Newell threw great for us yesterday. Quincy Kane and Gavin Short, Zane Brungart, and then we have 3 or 4 other guys that we can bring in if we need to as well. On the defensive end, really everybody on defense has contributed for us, and we kind of hang our hat on defense, which that's a hard thing for a lot of teams to do very well. And I think that's what lets our pitchers pitch is they know that we're gonna do a good job on the defensive end as well. And then at the plate, kind of up and down the order, we've had guys that step up different times during the year to help us out and do some big things for us. And so I don't really know who to pick out other than, as you said, there's quite a few I could pick from.
Absolutely. And, that probably makes your job a little bit easier, right? You don't have to kind of plug the specific guys in specific spots, right? You can play around because you've got a lot of guys that you can rely on. Does that help you when you're trying to construct a lineup?
Yeah, it helps, but I also hope I don't get him in the wrong spot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But no, I mean, they complement each other really well, and that's kind of how we try to build our lineup. So, we'll have a guy at the back end that can turn it over to the guys on the front end, and then we'll just battle all the way through it and see what we can do.
You mentioned kind of how you've got players that lead your program. And when I talk to coaches from, various levels and various sports, they always want to have a program that is led by their players. What in your mind kind of leads to that? Is it kids that are vocal, or how do players lead a program like that?
I wish I had the magic answer. I don't know that I do, but I think it's part of a kid being vocal, not being afraid to step out of his comfort zone a little bit. I think he also has to be a kid that's well respected. Doesn't have to be the best player, in my opinion, but somebody that's well respected, very accountable, and basically does things right almost the entire time. And hopefully on our end, we can lead them just a little bit and try to teach them what it takes to be a leader. But ultimately, it's those guys that want to get together, and it's kind of been a deal where the longer they've hung around together, the more they respect and do things together as a whole team. So this group, I'm very fortunate. They've been around together, shoot third or fourth grade. So that doesn't happen very often.
No, not at all. That's really special, and I'm sure this kind of a run means more to them that way, right? You know, you get some guys that are coming to the end of their senior year, and some may go on to play baseball somewhere else or other sports, and some for them it may be it. So they want to put everything into what's in front of them right now. But how do you make sure they're not pressing too much, right? It's kind of that thin line you have to toe between being, sharp and motivated, but not pressing too much.
No, I agree 100% with you. I think just experience wise, and we've been fortunate enough to make it to a state tournament quite a few years. And hopefully, I myself have learned, how to coach these kids when we get there. But early on in my career, I think I tried to put way too much pressure on our guys, and thought it was something that was more than what it should be. And I think once I learned to get to relax and just coach it as a normal game the best I possibly could, I think that helped the most. And so that's what I try to do from here on out. And the kids just kind of take over, and hopefully they kind of play get a read on how I feel. So I do my very best not to make sure I'm uptight or anything like that.
Well, you mentioned, you guys have made runs like this before, and you've seen success in the postseason, but every team is special in their own ways. What makes this group a special group that's led to this success, and hopefully a whole lot more this weekend?
Number one, I think, is the culture they brought to our program. I feel like we've always had a really good culture, but they've upped it up. They've upped it a notch or two up. Uh, they're a lot of fun to be around. Every one of them. We have 10 seniors, and each one of them plays a different degree, but each one is a very, very important part of our program. And I think their ability to find where everybody's goal is and what their role is has been huge. And they just kind of cherish that and go forward. And it's fun. They're great teammates, and they want to cheer for one another. And um, I don't know. It's brought a lot of fun back to my life coaching. So coaching's been a blast this year.
Well, I'm sure it's fun. You get to coach with your son too, right?
Yeah, yes, I do. He's been with me. I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years maybe, but yeah, he's going to be a good one if he wants to keep doing this.
Absolutely. You got a good guy to learn from and everything. I'm sure he's learned a lot from you, but I love to ask coaches, who their biggest coaching mentor was. Who was someone that kind of led the way for you to be in this position?
I probably have two that really stick out. Number one's my dad. He was a high school coach as well. He was mainly football, basketball coach, but he had a big, big, big influence on what I do. And then the second one's Dave Bingham, who I played for when I was at the University of Kansas. Um, I just how thorough and how meticulous he was about how everything was taught and what you needed to learn and what you needed to be able to do to be successful has kind of led me to keep things that I think are very important, throw away some things that I think are important but not really useful right now, and then kind of build my own way of coaching off of all that.
Again, we're visiting with Maize High School baseball head coach Rocky Helm. Coach, you said some magic words there. You mentioned the Kansas Jayhawks. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about their baseball team right now. Pretty exciting up in Lawrence, right?
It's very exciting. I Coach Fitzgerald's obviously done a great job, and It's fun seeing success out of there. We're not really considered a northern school, but I mean more to the north, obviously, of the state. And 1993, I believe, is the last time and the only time they maybe made it to the College World Series. That was after I'd already left. But yeah, it's very, very, very interesting and fun and exciting to watch them do what they've done. A bunch of my old guys, we kind of have a text thread together and we text all the time. So a lot of those guys are going to the regional this week. So they're excited just like I am.
Yeah, those are tough tickets to get a hold of. My goodness. But that's so fun. And I'm sure it's cool for you to be a high school coach as well and kind of be able to look at Kansas and say, hey, kids from our state can go and win at the high level, or they can go to the junior college route and then make it up to Kansas and go win. Does that kind of help you encourage some of your athletes that there's a lot of different paths to success out there, especially in your own backyard?
Yeah, I think it really helps. And as you mentioned, it's a lot. It's a lot how the coaches in the state recruit. Um, Obviously, the landscape in baseball has changed a little bit, so it's kind of a I guess a learning curve trying to teach these kids how it all works today. Um, so many want to jump right to the big tops, and that's not really what they're looking for in today's world. So it's kind of tough on the high school kids for a while, but I think what's eventually going to happen, it's going to help like the junior college become even stronger. Um, I think it's eventually going to even get down to the NAIA level and help those get stronger. Especially if they can figure out a way to curb the cost a little bit. But I think it just offers more opportunities, even though not quite as many opportunities at the big level, because you got to be big and strong to play at that level in today's world.
Absolutely. And I think, looking at like what you said, kind of this trickle down of the skill from D1 now to D2, JUCO, NAI, all that. Lots of kids are finding homes, but how do you kind of lead through that landscape and try to make sure you're helping your kids find the best spot for them? Because I know recruiting is never an easy process for a high school kid to try and find a place to go.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough I have quite a few contacts. So, I try to get in touch with those guys and they help me out in case I get stuck. Other than that, it's a constant, not battle, but it's a constant thing you're trying to do to try to find the best fit for each kid because they're all different. My middle son is now, he's a college coach. He's an assistant coach at a JUCO. So he's kind of helped me out a little bit where the landscape they're looking at and how they're doing from there. And my youngest son, he's a Division two kid, so he kind of tells me what happens there. But I'm just learning, and if I get stuck, I'll just call and ask. So that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Now to focus back in on your team, we mentioned you got a big emotional win yesterday to punch your ticket to the Final Four and get back here to Wichita and to X Stadium. And I'm sure it was a big moment. You come up with a late win and you finally get that final out, get the victory, and your guys are all excited. But how do you enjoy that moment and still kind of rein it back in a little bit, knowing that the job's not finished just yet? You got a couple more to win.
I think the easiest thing for this year was I get to practice with these guys again. So that's probably the biggest thing I could reel in just because practice has been so much fun. I know they're level headed and they just came back and, got right to work. During the year, I was even going to give them a day off and they go, Coach, we need to practice. So that doesn't happen very often. But, that's kind of the biggest thing that let me reel in and relax and, kind of enjoy the moment and then get ready for the next one tomorrow.
Now, looking ahead, you get a really good Washburn Rural team as your next test. And then, not to look too far ahead, but you've got a Free State team and a Shawnee Mission South team that are both playing really good baseball. And, it's kind of the time of year where the cream rises to the top. What is it going to take for your guys to get two more and hoist the trophy this weekend?
I mean, obviously, we're going to have to play mistake free. Obviously, timely hitting, kind of the old cliche. I'm going to need a little luck now and then, I'm sure, somewhere, just in the past. But, Washburn Rule is a very, very, very good team. They remind me a whole lot of our team, very seasoned, older group like we have that really likes to compete. And so we're just trying to take it one at a time. And, if we're fortunate enough to make it to the next one, then we'll worry about that one. But we know it's going to be a battle. I mean, just as you said, hopefully the best is around when it gets to the end.
Absolutely. Rocky Helm, head coach of the Maize Eagle baseball team. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Best of luck this weekend.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for having me again.
Final segment on our show here today on 92.3 Preps. I'm Jackson Schneider. As you just heard from the head baseball coach of Maize High School in Rocky Helm, our shorter show today, just one interview. But as I mentioned, it's kind of a chaotic weekend, chaotic day with state track and field and softball and baseball and the weather issues that we had on Thursday, kind of throwing off everybody's schedule. We had another interview scheduled, but that did not end up working out. So I apologize for that. But we're going to try to get that guest on maybe for next week's show instead of a preview of state track like we were actually planning. Maybe we'll just get a recap of the event there as well. Could be just as fun with some interesting and unique stories to tell on that one. But really appreciate you tuning in to a great show as always. Like I said before, my DMs are open. If you've got a coach or an athlete or a story you want me to look into, let me know. Follow us on our social medias at ESPN Wichita. We'll check it out and we'll see what we can't line up for shows in the future. And again, high school sports are going to conclude after this weekend for the year, but our show will not. We will continue on with stories throughout the summer and lots of fun stuff to look into. And I'm very excited about, the possibilities, because when there's no season, like no spring season, no fall season at that time, there's going to be lots of fun stuff to look into and a blank canvas for us to kind of play around with. So very excited about that. But again, thank you to Rocky Helm for joining us. Thank you to you, our viewers, for checking us out. Appreciate it as always. We'll see you next time. I'm Jackson Schneider, and this has been 92.3 Preps and ESPN Wichita production.